This video will guide you through the reclining twist. You will learn all about why you'd want to do the reclining twist, its psychological and energetic benefits, and how to do the pose. You will be shown alternative options, and will learn about contraindications for the pose. These are warnings for people who may have difficulties with certain aspects of the reclining twist. You'll also be shown how to get into and come out of the pose, and what to do after you finish the pose. Once you know how and why you'd want to do the reclining twist, visit the reclining twist performed to be guided through the pose. You can find links to this video and more information about Yin Yoga at yinyoga.com. Twisting at the end of the practice helps to restore equilibrium in the nervous system and releases tension throughout the spine. For some people, it's a nice release through the sacroiliac joint. You might get a nice chiropractic pop there. Something you'd normally pay $70 for, and you get for free at the end of your yoga practice. Some teachers notice that when you bring the bent knee closer into the chest, you can actually relieve sciatica. Because of the compression through the abdominal area, you're also toning the stomach, and you can cure gastritis and many other digestion problems. If the student has rotator cuff issues or shoulder problems, or is prone to tingling in the hands when the arm is extended overhead, she may not want to put the arm beside the ear or let it float off the ground. Instead, the raised arm can be bent or supported by a bolster. Another option is to simply bring the hand lower down and rest the hand onto the ribcage and allow the weight of the hand to help roll the ribcage down to the floor. Coming into the reclining twist is very simple. Just lie down on your back, draw both knees into your chest, open the arms to the side like wings, and then drop the knees to one side. Now, to help you find your edge, you might want to just rock a few times. You can go back and forth. At one time your shoulder's going to lift up, the other time the shoulder goes down, the knees lift up. Do that a couple of times. The priority here should be to try to get your shoulder blades flat on the floor, and then allow the knees to just go where they go. If the knees don't quite make it to the floor, then you can hold the knees with the free arm, or you can put blocks underneath the legs so that the bones can feel supported. The next option coming into the pose is to decide what to do with the neck. For a deeper twist, you can lift your head up, turn your head while it's in space, and then look away from the bent knees, lowering your cheek to the floor. If turning your head to one side creates any sense of lightheadedness, then turn your head the other way and see if that helps. Now, for some students, it's not possible to get the shoulder and the knees on the floor. So even though the knees may be supported, the shoulder blade may also be in the air. So in that case, you can always bring some sort of support underneath the shoulder blade as well. Options with the arms, as mentioned earlier. You can bring the arms overhead, which will then help to get a nice stress through the armpits and the shoulders, which stimulates the lung and the heart meridian. We can also have options for the knees. If we allow the knees to strictly come out to the side, the spine is in a neutral position, the legs are at a right angle to the spine. And so as we twist, the twist is really distributed along the whole length of the spine. However, if we bring the knees closer in, now we're in flexion of the spine, and you'll notice that tends to bring the twist more into the upper back. On the other hand, if you bring the knees further away from you, now the spine is a little bit into extension, a little bit of a back bend. So now as you come into a twist, you might sense it's more into the lower back, into the lumbar. For the one knee twist, you just have one knee bent. You can start by tucking the knee in, then hold it with the opposite hand and draw it across the body. Again, you can rock back and forth a few times, maybe lift the hip up and tuck the hip under. This is for the more flexible students who have more room to move. And then you draw that knee down, turn your head to the other side. Now this is probably the deepest twisting for the spine here. However, there's another option that's great for people who want to work into the outside of the hips, especially the IT band or the connecting muscles there, the tensor fasciae latae, the gluteus maximus. And that's to extend the top leg and hold the foot with the hand. Now you're starting to stress the outside of the hip as well. Because the foot touches the floor before the knee, it's not as deep of a twist, but it can be quite juicy for the outside of the hip. More flexible students will work towards having the legs straight. At this point, you might get a lovely stress to the hamstrings as well. So hanging out here for 3 or 4 minutes can be really special. A nice little option here is just to support the head a little bit, so you can put a towel folded up underneath the head just to cushion it against the floor. If during your yin yoga practice you've been doing a lot of external rotation of the hips, a nice counter pose is to internally rotate the hips while we do the rotation of the spine. So we can come into the twisted roots, which is a yin yoga version of ego legs or grudasana. Simply bring one leg on top of the other while the knees are bent. This now starts to internally rotate the top hip. We're also adducting the hips. Now, more flexible students can do the little tuck of the toe underneath the calf, and then whichever knee is on top, try drawing that knee to the opposite side. So if the right knee is on top, you go to the left. There is a version of doing this the other way. Some people like to drop them to the left. One's not better than the other, it's just a different sensation. So you can experiment with them. Personally, I always like to come down to the other side. So now we're internally rotating the hips, and we're adding a nice twist to the spine. And we're really pinning the hips here. So in this particular case, you might not get your shoulder all the way to the floor. So again, remember, you can support the shoulder blade with something, just so you feel like you can rest here. Of course, you can always support the knees as well if the knees don't quite come down to the floor. So now you can hang out here and marinate. And there's a couple of ways you can come out of the pose. If it really has been a juicy pose for you, the easiest way may be to roll towards the bent knees and just let your upper body relax here for a moment, and then roll onto your back. If you're not feeling too stiff here, you can simply just roll onto your back. And once here, just to release the lower back a bit, you can hug the knees in and circle the knees. Whenever you're circling the knees, you can experiment. See how it feels to do this with the knees together, and see what it feels like to do with the knees apart. Sometimes little circles, sometimes big circles. Just feel what works well for you. Another option that some people like is windshield wipers. Some people, just depending on their anatomical structure and how they're feeling today, might prefer to go into a spinal lift. Other people like to spontaneously go into a happy baby. So just listen to your body. Let your inner guru be the guide here. From the perspective of the joints, we're mostly working along the spine. Some students feel a nice release here though in the sacroiliac joint. You might get that nice pop there. If you bring the arm alongside the ear, we're also working through the shoulder joint. From the meridian perspective, we're strongly stimulating the urinary bladder that runs along either side of the spine. If you're feeling this in the top of the hip, you're also working the gallbladder meridian. As we draw the knees in, we're physically compressing the abdominal organs. So this pose can help the liver, the spleen, and the pancreas through simple compression. With the arm alongside the ear, we're also stimulating the heart and lung meridians. Finally, most of the time when we're doing a twist, we're stimulating the gallbladder meridian through the rib cage, the side of the chest area. Now this is a fairly yin-like pose, so you can hang out here for a long time, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, even 10 minutes if you like. But just remember, you can do too much of anything. In the yang world, this is known as Jatara Parivartanasana, the reclining twist. It's a lovely way to end the practice. And then from here, you can simply slide into Shavasana after you've done the counter pose.